Martin Luther King was an African American minister and leader in the African American civil rights movement. His actions helped change the laws discriminating against blacks and minorities. King was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His parents were named Alberta Williams King and Martin Luther King Sr. Martin had two siblings, his sister Christine King Ferris and his brother Alfred Daniel Williams King. He was married to Coretta Scott King from 1953 till his tragic death in 1968. Martin had four children named Yolanda King, Martin Luther King III, Bernice King, and Dexter Scott King.
Martin entered the civil rights movement because he wanted to help remove the legal segregation of African Americans in South and other parts of the United States of America. He also led the March on Washington, Selma March, and most of the speeches on civil rights. He was the leader until his assassination in 1968. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and his leadership helped him earn a Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. Martin Luther King was hated by people who wanted blacks and whites to be different and segregated. They didn't want to change. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968 by James Earl Ray with a gun wound to the right side of his jaw, neck, and shoulder on Memphis, Tennessee, where he had been leading a strike of waste management workers. The news of the murder sent shockwaves of emotion in many African American communities in a number of cities, resulting in deadly riots between the day of his murder and the day of the funeral. Martin Luther King's funeral was 5 days after his assassination.
Martin Luther King Jr. first memorial service following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4, 1968. It took place the following day at the R.S. Lewis Funeral Home in Memphis, Tennessee. This was followed by two funeral services on April 9, 1968 in Atlanta, Georgia. The first held for family and close friends at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where King and his father had both served as senior pastors, followed by a 3-mile procession to Morehouse College, King's alma mater, for a public service.
Martin Luther King was a man who was trustworthy and showed integrity. He was a man who kept his word and promises. Martin Luther King Jr.'s role has been remembered in years since his death in a country where blacks and whites are much closer to being equal. His work will be remembered along with Rosa Parks, Joanne Robinson, Ed Nixon, and Albert Abernathy, who were also leaders in the civil rights movement.